Hey guys, Pro1701 here, and today on It's Armageddon, we're going to talk about what if you could only save 10 seasons slash series in all of Doctor Who, modern and classic. Which 10 would you save? So just somehow Armageddon's happening, you can save 10 seasons of classic Doctor Who or modern Doctor Who because, got to prioritize and get the important stuff, food, water, Doctor Who. And then, of course, your children, if you have time after the other stuff. So we're going to do these in chronological order, just to keep it simple. So this isn't like a worst to best or anything. We're going to start with the earliest seasons and just progress in chronological order. The first one I would save is season 6. And I know some people would scream, but I'm taking these in the context of the 60s stories, so many of them being missing, and me having not seen a lot of the Hartnell stuff. Like, I love season 4, I like season 5, but with them so incomplete and only having 10 seasons to work with, I picked season 6 because it is mostly complete, so people would actually get to see most of the surviving episodes of Troughton instead of having to see animation reconstructions. And plus, I know it has some stuff like the Dominators, which isn't so great, but it also has some really good stories in it, like the Mine Robber. I saw the Mine Robber for the first time recently, and it just blew me away. It's so good. So it has the Mine Robber, it has Seeds of Death, which is really good. It has the Invasion, which is phenomenal, and it has the War Games, which I think is just also epic and phenomenal. So I think season 6, if you can only have one Troughton, I think that would be the way to go since most of it's intact. Next on the list is season 7. I think this is a great season. It's a great introduction to the third Doctor, to Doctor Who being in color, and to the 70s, and to this whole new era of Doctor Who with him exiled on Earth and with the Unit family. And because I think three of the 4 stories in it are pretty much masterpieces, and the other one is salvageable. I don't really care for Ambassadors of Death. I find it overly long and boring. But Spearhead from Space is really good, amazing. Silurians is amazing, and Inferno is one of my favorite Doctor Who stories ever. So I think you need it for that. And then the other pertwee one I have on the list is season 10. Like, I really wanted to put season 8, but I'm having to be realistic. You only have 10 seasons. As much as I love season 8, some of the stories in it, I'm really having to just, again, I'm limited to 10 seasons to work with. And season 10 is my favorite pertwee season. I love the 3 Doctors. It's my favorite multi-Doctor story. I love any time the second and third Doctors are together in a Doctor Who story. I really like Carnival of Monsters. It's an underrated gem. It's one of those stories I think that, us fans who really love Classic Who and know Classic Who, we know it's a, masterpiece. But I think it's one that, like, say, people who are more modern series fans who only kind of catch the cliff notes of Classic Who, the famous stories that they hear about, this is one I think they could miss out on, just because you don't hear as much about Carnival of Monsters as you do, Caves of Androzani, Genesis of the Daleks, 3 Doctors, 10th Planet, Power of the Daleks, stuff like that. But it deserves to be mentioned in those same circles, because it really is an amazing story. Frontier in Space is really good. Planet of the Daleks is okay to good. And then, of course, The Green Death is amazing and a fantastic story in its own right and a great exit for Joe. Next on the list is, seasons 12, 13, and 14. You need the whole Hinchcliffe era because these are 3 of the best seasons in all of Doctor Who. These 3 seasons are just consistently amazing. Philip Hinchcliffe and Bob Holmes were just so good together. They really crafted a wonderful era of Doctor Who. There's no bad stories in this era. I don't think there's a single story in these 3 seasons that is what I would call bad or a dud. Not a single one. I'll say there's some that might not be masterpieces, but there are some that are great. Like Sultana Experiment might not be a masterpiece, but it's really good, especially as a 2-parter. It's good. It does its job really well. Revenge of the Cybermen is criminally underrated and deserves to be praised almost as much as Earthshock, in my opinion, because it's a really good story, and Tom Baker's on fire in it. Android Invasion, while being, I think, the weakest story of Season 13, is still really good, and Planet of Evil is in Season 13. I think it's underrated, even though most people still consider it really good. I think it's a masterpiece. I just reviewed it recently. And then even the 2 weaker stories in Season 14, which would be Hand of Fear and Mask of Mandragora, are still both really good. Mask of Mandragora mainly suffers from The ending being a little Deus Ex Machina and resolved a little too easily. But the story itself is really good. It's got a lot of amazing moments in it. You can't count. I love that. And when the Count's trying to get the Doctor to tell him his future, you tell me mine? No, why? Because you don't have a future. I love that. It's got a lot of really good moments in it. Hand of Fear is the same way. Hand of Fear's main weakness is that it falls apart a bit in episode 4. Episode 4 lets it down. The first 3 episodes are really, really good. Really good. It's just episode 4 kind of doesn't quite stick the landing, but it's still a really good story. And pretty much all the other stories that I didn't mention, they're practically masterpieces. They're phenomenally good stories. This era deserves all the praise it gets, so you got to have all 3 seasons. The next one is probably the most controversial choice on the list. I went with season 18. I was tempted to put 19 instead, because I do like 19 a lot, but I find 19 very hit or miss. I really like season 18. I think it's its own unique season. There's no other season in Doctor Who like season 18. And for me, it only has one real bad story, and that's The Leisure Hive, which is still watchable. Let me maintain that. It's definitely watchable, but I just don't think it's good. Everything else I like to one extent or another. I really enjoy Meglos. I think it's an underrated story. It fills out its 4 parts well. Honestly, I think it needs at least 1 extra episode, because it ends faster than it should. Full Circle's good. State of Decay is amazing. That's the masterpiece of the season. I love State of Decay. That's a story that would fit right in the Hinchcliffe era, much like Horror of Fang Rot would. And then you have Warrior's Gate, which is a great story. I love Warrior's Gate because there's a lot of really good ideas going on in Warrior's Gate, and I think it's executed pretty well for 1980 and for a Doctor Who budget. I think they pull it off pretty well. It's another one of those stories, kind of like The Mind Robber or Ghostlight, where it has a uniqueness to it that I don't think any other Doctor Who story quite has, which I really enjoy. And then Keeper of Traken is really good. I enjoy it. My favorite Anthony Ainley performance in all of Doctor Who is when he plays Tremas here. The way he plays Tremas as just this noble scientist, good father, good leader, makes it all the more tragic with what happens to him at the end. Really makes it just heartbreaking, honestly. And then Logopolis is a pretty good finale. It's not the best Doctor Who regeneration story, or the best, Doctor's final story, but I think it's good. It's certainly serviceable. And then next on the list, I have season 26. I love season 26. I think that this is the best season probably in all of 80s Who. All 4 stories are just knockouts. My only real complaint probably is the incidental music in Battlefield is not good, but Battlefield itself is a great story. Great to have the Brigadier back. The makeup used on the Destroyer is fantastic, especially for Classic Who. And then I think Jean Marsh is just phenomenal as Morgaine. And then I love everything with the Arthurian legend, because I love King Arthur and Knights of the Round Table. I love the 1981 Excalibur movie. So I really enjoy having that tied into the story. And then it also has Ghostlight. I love Ghostlight. It's a very unique Doctor Who story, and I love revisiting Ghostlight. I always recommend people watch it. Curse of Fenric, which, while I think is a tad overrated, is essential Doctor Who viewing. I mean, I always tell people if there's one Sylvester McCoy story they should watch, it's Curse of Fenric. It's really, really good. It is essential. It's essential viewing if you want to get a grasp of the 7th Doctor as a character. And I think Ace has a lot of really good character development in it, much like she does this whole season. And then Survival is a great way to end the show. I love Survival. It's a really good story. Anthony Ainley's best performance is the Master, in my opinion. I think he really got to play it the way he wanted to play it, which I really enjoy. And this only leaves a couple places left for the modern series. And I'm going to start off by saying Series 1 with Eccleston, because Rose does such a good job of getting people on board with the new show. It does everything it needs to really start building an audience for the series. And that, in the fact, Series 1 doesn't really have any bad episodes. Eccleston's such a good Doctor. I don't really think there's any just out-and-out duds in this season. Even stuff like Boomtown I think is very underrated. And The Long Game is underrated. They're really good stories. There's so many good stories in Series 1 that I think you need to keep it. And then my last pick at number 10 would be Series 3, which is my favorite series of the modern series. I really like Tennant and Martha together. I think Tennant is really settled into the role at this point. And again, I think this series doesn't have any bad stories. I think Maybe its weakest story is 42, and I still think 42 is a good story. It is directed by Graham Harper, after all. Love me some Graham Harper. So I think Series 3 has no duds in it as well, and has some really... I think it has some good masterpieces in it, like Utopia. And I also think it has some underrated stories in it, too, like Lazarus Experiment, Gridlock, and Shakespearean Code, which I think are all magnificent stories. So if I could pick one more, if I had an 11th choice, I would put Series 4 on there. Because I do... While there's a couple of them in Series 4 I don't quite care for, like Turn Left Midnight, and in Planet of the Ood is just okay. It does have a lot of good stories. I love Donna as a companion, and I love the relationship between the 10th Doctor and Donna, and David and Catherine have such good chemistry together that I do really enjoy Series 4. So if I could pick an 11th one, it would be Series 4. So that's me picking the 10 seasons in all series in all of Doctor Who. I would save, if I could only save, 10 seasons. So let me know what you think of my choices, and let me know which 10 or 11 you would pick if you could. I always enjoy hearing from you guys, finding out what you think and what you think of what I think. So comment down below and let me know. Other things to do, click the like button, click the subscribe button. I am working on trying to grow the channel to 1,000 subscribers. That's my goal right now. The channel has been making a lot of progress lately, which I really appreciate. And if you want to, I also have a Patreon. If you like what I do and would like to support what I do, there's a link to that down in the description below. If you want access to different things, depending on which tier you want to join at, you can get access to things like voting in polls for upcoming videos, behind the scenes stuff, outtakes and bloopers. Also, I've started releasing early reviews on there. So if you want to get access to some story reviews early, like I know The Visitation released early, Evil of the Daleks, Planet of Evil released early on there, and at this point when this goes out I probably have another review that's up already that's not actually up yet on the channel up there. So if you're interested in any of that, check that out. There's a link to that in the description below. But most importantly, I just want to say thank you for watching.